I would like to make a special request to those who haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet. Please do subscribe now. And if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Now we'll move on to today's story. We hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. I heard this story from my mother, and she heard it from her mother. Every time I've heard it, a chill has run down my spine. Every time I've closed my eyes, it felt like I was standing beneath that dark bamboo grove, seeing that black shadow. Even today, sometimes it feels like some stories are not just stories. They linger in the blood's memory. My grandmother's house was at the far end of the village. Back then, the village was small, silent, and deserted. The house looked like the English letter I. A yard in front, concrete rooms on both sides, and in the middle, the sitting room we used to call the bangla room. Behind the house was a pond, a bamboo grove, and then a vast empty field. Even during the day, the backside of the house felt eerie. It felt like even the birds refused to chirp there. If you stood by the pond, it seemed like someone was watching from the other side. Many people have had strange experiences there, but today I'm only telling the story of Alamin. Alamin was my mother's cousin's son. He was 3 years old then, extremely fair-skinned, slanted eyes, a round face that always carried a smile. But one look at him would reveal an odd fire inside. Restlessness, boldness, mischief, all blended together. He was everyone's favorite. But no one could have imagined something so terrifying would happen to him. The incident happened one hot afternoon. Everyone was resting inside. Some were cooking. That's when it was noticed. Alamin was nowhere to be found. At first, they thought he was playing in the yard, but he wasn't. The pond side, sitting room, kitchen, every corner was searched thoroughly. He was nowhere. Eventually, fear crept into everyone's heart. A little child who never went out alone, where could he have gone? After hours of searching, he was finally found beneath the bamboo grove behind the house, later in the afternoon. What was seen there is still fresh in many people's memories. Little Alamin was lying asleep on the grass. It wasn't sleep exactly. He was limp, lifeless. When someone called him, he wouldn't respond. Eventually, he opened his eyes and said, "I went to play near the pond. Then, I don't remember anything." That first evening, strange behaviors began. Seizures, breathing trouble, strange body contortions. When he looked at someone, his eyes would sometimes roll white. His lips would turn blue and his throat seemed parched. The child who ran and jumped all day now lay on the bed in twisted poses. Sometimes he laughed, and that laugh felt like it came from an adult. That night, a religious healer from the family was called. He came and recited verses from the Quran and blew on him. But before the recitation ended, Alamin suddenly stood up from the bed and ran. He ran so fast that no one could believe it. On tiny feet, he ran toward the back of the house as if something was calling him. 3 grown men struggled to catch him. Again, he was found under the bamboo grove, the exact same spot. The healer stood silently for a moment and then said, "I can't help with this. Take him to someone else." A doctor was called, but he too said, "This child has no physical illness." The entire night passed in screams. Al-Amin's voice would shift, sometimes that of a child, sometimes an old man, sometimes a woman. Sometimes he'd call someone's name, and other times suddenly go silent. 4 people were needed to hold him down on the bed. One said, "It's like he's not one, but many." Eventually, a famous spiritual leader was contacted. He revealed Al-Amin had come under the gaze of 7 invisible entities. They were brothers, all physically disabled in some way. One had no leg, one was blind, one was mute. They stayed together and lived in that back area where Al-Amin was found. These entities were said to be extremely violent and stubborn. Removing them wouldn't be easy. The spiritual leader said, "They must be driven out right here. They've become attached to the house." He gave the name of a tantric. At first, the tantric refused to come. But after much pleading and monetary persuasion, he agreed. The tantric arrived with his wife and a disciple. It was decided that Al-Amin would be exorcised for 3 consecutive afternoons. A circle was drawn in the yard. Al-Amin and his father were placed in the center. Everyone else watched from the veranda, holding their breath. The tantric began the ritual. Chants, fire, and pungent smells filled the yard. Drums were beaten, the wife hummed. The roar of the wind made it feel like lightning was striking the bamboo grove. The house's windows rattled and glass shattered. The first day passed terribly. On the second night, the tantric dreamed of 7 black figures telling him, "Stop, or you'll be finished." In the morning, trembling, he tried to leave. But Al-Amin's mother's crying made him stay. On the 3rd day, the ritual began again. But this time, something happened. As soon as the chanting began, the bamboo grove split in 2 and touched the ground, as if some force pressed it down from above. The drums stopped. The humming ceased. The tantric shouted, "Keep going!" No one knew that at that moment, an unseen force lifted Al-Amin off the ground, floated him in the air, in front of everyone's eyes. Then folded him mid-air and slammed him into the earth. The entire yard went silent. The child lay lifeless. Many thought he was dead. But no, he was alive. For the next 27 years, he lived with a cursed body. His body shriveled, his head became abnormally large, he couldn't speak, couldn't walk. He only stared in one direction, as if he was seeing someone. Year after year, every night, a tall black shadow would be seen, in that part of the house, sometimes in the yard, sometimes in a corner of a room, sometimes on the veranda. No one dared to spend the night there. Visitors to the house stopped coming. Those who did later suffered from nightmares, stomach illnesses, headaches, as if something had touched them. Around 2004, Al-Amin died, and after his death, that black figure stopped appearing. The house regained its normal rhythm. But even today, that name, Al-Amin, rises in whispers. Once, Al-Amin's father heard of an old sage who could solve such matters. After much trouble, they went to see him. The old man lay in bed and listened to everything. He gave a talisman, saying it must be soaked and drunk, used to bathe Al-Amin, and thrown into a river after 7 days. He gave another talisman for protection during the return journey. On the way back, suddenly the bike jolted, as if it had hit a speed breaker.
Princess, the talisman fell from his mouth and was never found again. Even today, there is no speed breaker on that road. So how did the bike jump? It's not over. Perhaps the shadow of this story still lingers. Perhaps when night deepens, those 7 brothers still stand somewhere, waiting.